What is your best sorry wrong number moment? Someone called me Susan and asked me to come into therapy. Did you sing Whitney Houston's My Name Is Not Susan back at them? Whoop, that's going on my wrong name playlist. Whoever used to have my number still uses it on forms and stuff. I get calls for debt collectors, dentists, etc. One day, I get a call from a bail bondsman. This lady's boyfriend has skipped bail, and she's on the hook for $50k. Scared the shit out of me. I have one of those numbers. For 10 years debt collectors and police have called. Every time they say they'll make a note that it's not her number. Someone else will call a bit later. She's still using my number. I woke up to a massive string of texts accusing me of being the man that was cheating with someone's girlfriend or wife. I'm a woman. I didn't work at the place mentioned. They were super apologetic when I text them back in the morning on the plus side. I got a bunch of texts from this guy saying that my brother is sleeping around with married women. So he was contacting every woman who was friends with my brother on Facebook to warn them that he's a player and is probably cheating on them. I asked my brother about it and he was like, he contacted you too. Huh. I slept with his wife way back when we were in high school nearly 30 years ago and haven't seen her since. IDK, what's going on with him? Apostrophe. I've had a few. I got my own cell line once I hit 18. Pretty much. And the number one got used to belong to a woman named Sandra. I know she was pregnant as I had gotten calls from strangers congratulating me on it. And after realizing I had no idea what they were on about, would ask if I had her new number. Dumb request. Emo. But I mostly ignored it. I also got voicemail a few times from her place of work. And one sounded very serious. From what I could gather, she was a nurse, or at least worked at a hospital, and they were trying to get her to cover a shift. I called back trying to be helpful, but the person who answered was mostly annoyed. I got a call within the last year asking to speak about my son and how he's in trouble. I'm assuming the same kid from almost a decade ago is getting into trouble at school. Why they listed such an old number, I don't know. Lastly, I still get calls for her and her husband's prescriptions. No idea how many times I called to correct them, but Franz and Sandra have some set up for auto refill. I haven't gotten a reminder in a few weeks, so maybe a pharmacist spoke to them finally. It was actually a voicemail left on my work phone. It was a woman going on and on about how the intended recipient was a very naughty boy and he deserved a spanking. I was mortified and deleted it after a few minutes, but I should have kept it. In hindsight, it was hilarious. Back when I was a kid, we lived 3,000 miles away from our grandparents, so we didn't get to see them very often. One evening the phone rang. I answered and had a really nice chat with my grandma for about 10 minutes. She called me the wrong name to say goodbye, and I was confused, and we both realized she dialed the wrong number. Had a whole party call my number and sing me happy birthday over the phone. I didn't have the heart to stop them midway, so I stayed quiet until the end. Sorry guys, but my birthday is in December, not June. We had a good laugh about it, and that was that. Literally today I called the wrong number trying to set up a dental appointment. Old lady on the other line, well I guess I could get my husband to work on your teeth if you want. He's not a dentist or anything though. Someone phoned my parents' landline, in tears, saying that they had proof that my husband was having an affair with his girlfriend. I explained that I was 14 and my parents were in their 40s. He apologized for having the wrong number and hung up. This was around 17 years ago. I remember getting a wrong number call a few days ago. They introduced themselves in a very intimidating manner, stating that everything spoken over the phone would be recorded and used against me in court. But then they asked for Rebecca, and I mentioned that they had the wrong number. Their tone of voice completely changed afterwards, and they apologized and hung up. One time when I was about 11 years old, my mom wanted me to call my grandma and read off a recipe for pound cake, because my grandma wanted to make one. I dialed the number. Someone answered. Then I promptly started reciting the recipe my mom gave me. When I got to the end, the person snorted and said, "I think you have the wrong number." I said I was sorry and hung up lol. Whenever someone called AT&T's 411 info line and asked for the time of day for Seattle, Washington, they would get connected with my cell phone number. I got so many voicemails of old people who were pissed. I got tired of answering my phone saying IDK why they listed my number, but the time is 1:30 PM. The AT&T guy thought I was insane trying to explain until I made him call, and when I answered I was like YEPPP, it's me. My area code is 906, and they were likely looking for 907 plus MY number because their call came from 907. I answered and an older woman just starts speaking Spanish so fast. I had no idea she was actually talking at first. I said hello and she started to repeat herself, but she stopped and I just said sorry, I think you have the wrong number, and she goes she and promptly hangs up. This happened 2 more times before she apparently fixed the contact in her phone lol. I got a call that said restricted number. I don't usually answer unknown numbers, but this one I was too curious. Me, hello, caller, is this Detective Angles? Me, wah, who? Caller, Detective Angles. Me, that is. Not me. Caller, long pause. Are you a detective? Me, no. Caller, okay then. And she hung up. No laughter. She sounded dead serious. Clearly an adult on the other end. It was so bizarre. I got a text on my new phone that said white BB girl. I replied I'm Brin, and phone rang in like 2 seconds. He was pissed when a guy answered the phone and told me I was an asshole for making him panic. My half sister Kathy was about 18 months at the time. Someone called my dad's landline phone in the 70s and asked if Kathy was there. My dad replied yes. Then the caller asked what she was doing. My dad replied, she's running down the hall with her clothes off. Some poor girl probably had to explain to her boyfriend that she wasn't running around with her clothes off. Someone kept messaging me looking for a Sarah, to the point where it was ducking annoying. Took a picture of me shirtless, fat and built like a ducking gorilla. Lots and lots of body hair, holding a beer. The next text I got searching for Sarah, I sent it to them. They never messaged back. When I first got my current phone number, it took about 6 months before all of the previous owner's contacts had called me once and realized he changed numbers. I'm 99% sure he sold pot, but he wasn't anyone's go-to dealer. He was the emergency my usual guy's out. Are you holding? Weed guy. They always had some weird code word for what they wanted in the time it took me to explain this was my number now. I'll never forget the guy who called up and said, yeah, my usual guy's out, man. I'm looking for turtle food. I once misdialed and got a very upper class gentleman. I asked for my friend and he said I think you dialed the wrong number. I replied, oh, what number have I dialed? Quick as lightning he said I don't know him, not there, and hung up. I stared at the handset for a solid 30 seconds trying to figure out how I'd been checkmated in the conversation so effectively and so quickly. Well played, sir. Well played. Edit typus. Not best. Actually heartbreaking, but definitely most memorable. Years ago I got a new number, and within the first few days I got a text from an unknown number saying I love and miss you. I figured someone's ex was texting, but who knows? They could be the reason the last person gave up my new number, so I just ignored it. Not my drama. The texts continued to come, but not a lot, and usually just I love you and miss you, so I'd just ignore it and keep going with my days. One day a long paragraph came in from this number, explaining a lot. This poor girl broke down and said she was hurting too bad. She had become lost since the death and she just wants it to end. She said she can't keep going when the love of her life was ripped from her. Yeah. So I had apparently gotten her partner's phone number after he was killed in a freak accident. She was messaging him in her grief. I replied to her and said I don't mean to, but in on something so personal. I'm just the person with a new phone number, but please don't give up. To say I startled her when the number applied to her would probably be an understatement. She apologized saying she didn't know the number had been recycled so fast. I told her I didn't mind at all, and I was so sorry for her loss, and I was there if she needed to talk. She did. She told me about him, about them, and about his accident. She told she messaged his number when she was at her weakest points and wanted a connection. We talked about her and what her goals had been. We talked about how much he would have wanted her to continue on for both of them. How giving up isn't the answer and he wouldn't have wanted that. How therapy can really help, and how she can honor his memory while living on. After a bit she thanked me for taking the time to talk to her. I never got another text from her number, but I've always hoped she continued on and made the best of her life. My heart still hurts for her loss. Having now found the love of my life, I don't even want to imagine the pain she was facing. I had one once that kept asking for various people, the answers to which were, no he doesn't live here, no she doesn't live here, etc etc. It was definitely a they're all dead Dave moment. The call vaguely ended with the plonker getting the hump at me for having the wrong number. My mother-in-law gets a call and is chatting away for several minutes. She gets off and we ask who it was. It was a wrong number. She likes to be friendly. In like 2004 when I was under 18, some girl sent me a picture of her tits. I don't think the term sexting was even part of the lexicon. Camera phones were still pretty new and phone were dumb. It was pretty awesome. I got a call in college, back when we had landlines, from some guy asking for Amanda. I'm not Amanda. He got kind of sad and explained that some girl named Amanda gave him a fake number, and I sat and talked to him for a few minutes where he sobbed about how lonely he was and how he really felt like he connected with this girl Amanda, but she didn't feel the same way obviously. I talked to him for about 15 minutes then had to leave for work. Felt really bad for the guy. Fast forward a year. At that point I had a new number. Again a landline. Guy calls and asks for Tammy. I'm not Tammy. Then he launches into this story about how he really felt like he connected with Tammy and she must have given him a wrong number. Apparently Guy was just going through the phone book looking for women to feed this sob story to Sophie. Talked to him for a few minutes. One time I got a call from an unknown number and I decided to answer it. Might as well, you know. Anyway I answered. Hello. Who I but was cut off by the exasperated woman on the other line. Sorry, I just need to vent right now. They clearly thought I was someone else, but it's weird they didn't speed dial the number in their contacts. They went on to explain their day, which was certainly below average. I won't go into too much detail out of respect, and because I don't remember too much. It did involve a coworker hitting on her in a way she wasn't comfortable with and bakery items meant for someone special getting smashed and soaked in street water. After she was done she took a breath, and I told her that I wasn't who she meant to call. But what happened sounded like it sucked. She did seem surprised. She was asked where I lived, not like that, and I said Arizona. She said she lived there too, which was a shock. Fast forward 6 months, and we still talk sometimes. When I was in my 20s, I met a guy, let's call him Jay, while out with friends. He gave me his number, landline, and I called him a few days later. Turns out he gave me his friend's phone number. We will call the friend C. I ended up chatting with C via phone for several days, and we made plans to go out. I hadn't even seen what he looked like, but he was just really funny, and we really enjoyed talking. C told Jay what happened with the calls. Met up with C, and he was super handsome and so fun. We ended up dating for about a year and Jay ended up becoming a good friend. 20 plus years later, I'm still friends with both Jay and C. And C is married now, and his wife was my daughter's first grade teacher. Some lady kept calling me and asking for her brother in Spanish. Fortunately, I happen to speak a little Spanish. After a while, I figured out that she was calling the wrong area code. But by then she had told me that she was a single mother with a daughter, so I would ask about her daughter and how she was doing in school. I have a different phone number now. I hope they are doing alright. I had this man text me asking me out to my work number. I explained that he had the wrong number and that I'm just some guy who sells software. He was all don't play me like that girl, so I sent back a pic of me, all male with my beard etc. He insists that I just googled that image and texts me for 6 months. Tryna convince me to go out with him. TBH I kinda looked forward to the texts cause it was so funny. Not your classic sorry wrong number moment. When I was maybe 14, I got a phone call from some woman who wanted to call her boyfriend/husband. I told her she's got the wrong number. Then she called me again and again and again. She became convinced that I'm her boyfriend/husband's friend who he gave his phone to in order to cover for him. Then she threatened to call the police on me. Then she stopped. Weird. A few years ago, a very famous and TBH damn good looking, let's call him CL, French swimmer got pranked during a TV show by one of his friends. The friend was sitting in the public and at some point raised a panel saying CL personal phone 06XXXXXXX. Apparently, my friend's phone number differed only by 1 digit. He got literally dozens of very hot messages and calls during several weeks after that. I made someone else say sorry wrong number so Ian called me. I was in the mood to troll, and the person calling was a telemarketer trying to sell water toys, water guns, slides, balloons, etc. I asked the dimensions of the water gun nozzles, then fake asked the person next to me, without covering the microphone, how big their dick was in comparison. They hung up. A man and his new girlfriend stole something from the man's ex-wife. The ex-wife called him about it, and he hung up on her. In her haste to call him back she accidentally dialed my number. She then spent the next minute arguing with me that it was not the wrong number, that I was the new girlfriend, and was just pretending to not know her. She threatened to call the cops to get her property back and then hung up. Not the best, but definitely the craziest. A few years ago my mom started getting texts and dozens of calls an hour from this lady who was yelling about how my mom slept with her baby daddy. It was definitely not my mother. The lady was calling her a different name and said that her baby daddy and the girl he cheated with worked at Denny's. My mother explained like 10 times that she was a 60-year-old nurse who was definitely not sleeping with anyone's baby daddy, but the lady would not leave her alone. It was a huge problem because my mom was on call and couldn't just turn off her phone. At the time my mom had an old phone, so we had to call Verizon to get her number blocked. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.